Welcome back to the ReaderHouse Author Roundtable. How you doing? I'm Ella Stockton Rossini. Scott Beef Bidwell has one of those stories that'll leave you feeling like, if he can do it, I know I can. The name of his book, Full Throttle. How you doing, Scott?
I'm good.
All right, you suffered a life-altering injury when you were just 15 years old.
Yeah, and I was out walking in the woods because I was a big archery hunter, and I got hurt 2 weeks before archery. I was out in the woods with my best friend looking for deer, and then the next day I had a football game, and I got injured and broke my neck. And I got pretty sick because of my injury and stuff, and I laid in bed. I couldn't get out of bed for like 2 years. So I just thought about my whole life, and I said I want to put it in a book. So I wrote it when I was 52, but my whole injury of when I broke my neck started when I was 15. So I wrote the story about what I went through during those years.
So exactly what happened?
I was on the kickoff. I was called a killer, which wherever the ball goes, you go. You don't have to worry about gap assignments or anything. And I love that. I made most of the tackles. A lot of times I just had a knack for getting through people, and I did again, and this time it did not work out.
And you just got hit the right way?
No, I actually tackled the right way with my head up. It was raining that day, and he kind of slipped, and I slipped, and I hit him right in the femur bone. I broke his leg and broke my neck in third, fourth, and fifth vertebrae.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, pretty interesting, huh?
Interesting. As a kid, how do you deal with that?
The whole book kind of tells what was going through my mind, and I put it in great detail. Like I said, for me it really hit me when I got to the hospital because I never felt them take any of my clothes off, and I was totally naked laying on the cart there, and they had a mirror on the ceiling, which is the worst thing they could have did. And I tried to move everything in my body, and nothing moved, and that's when I started crying, and it hit me that I was screwed.
Oh my gosh. You got a lot of support from your family though, didn't you?
Oh, family, friends. My friends never gave up on me, and I had some surgeries, and I got movement in my arms back where I could move my arms and use them. My fingers still didn't work, but learned how to drive again, hunt again, fish. I mean, all the things I love to do. I don't know, went to college, got an education, bought a race team, did racing for 25 years.
You bought a race team?
Yeah, a race car. I couldn't drive it, but I owned the cars for 25 years. It was just something I loved to do, and then got a teaching job. I was a teacher for 25 years, and I had to quit when I got sick again, so I put that in the book.
What happened?
And of course, I had to, I got septic when they were changing my catheter. I went through my bladder wall, and I went in the hospital, and when I got out, my electrolytes were all messed up, so I really didn't know what was going on. And my skin was really loose, and I sat and ended up getting 5 sores on my behind and my back and everything. And that's where I had to lay in bed for 3 years without getting up because my sores on my backside were so bad that I couldn't set up. So I wrote about that too. Yeah, had to go through stuff twice.
How did you stay so positive throughout all of this?
I didn't. I said in the book how I really didn't want to live no more because there was every day when they changed my sores, it was a 2-hour deal where I'd have to lay on my side and look at the wall while they did that. And it was not fun. And as I told people in the book, that you have your mind, but you don't have the body, is really hard on you. I mean, it makes you think pretty evil thoughts, and you don't want to be here. But after about 5 years, I'm starting to set up again and get back to living it up again. Kind of back to normal a little bit.
You know, some people give up, you know?
Family doesn't let me. I got a girl who I'm in love with, didn't let me. And things like that. Just made me keep rolling, and then once I got a little taste of setting up again, I kind of lost interest in doing myself in and wanted to live again. I'm starting to do the things I did before.
Yeah, I mean, you're amazing. People think their lives are so bad and things are so hard.
Well, I see people that do drugs and other things, and they just waste a human body, which I would love to transform my head onto their body and use it the right way.
Yeah.
I mean, they're crazy thoughts, but that's the type of thing you start thinking about when you're laying here and you can't do anything about it, I wish I had a body again, because when you don't and you have a mind that is still sharp, it works on you.
Are you able to take your message out, your message of hope?
I do stuff on Instagram and Facebook and TikTok and other stuff. I put videos out about little excerpts of the book and stuff that's not in the book.
Yeah.
I give little tidbits of what I went through. And believe it or not, I mean, this might seem like a sad story. You will laugh your ass off in that whole book.
There's a lot of laughs.
Oh, the whole thing is laughs, even though I still had a sense of humor the whole time.
That's incredible.
Because that's just the way I was.
Do people ask you to come in and speak?
Well, I was a teacher before. A lot of people have told me to go around and talk to schools, but that's still hard for me to sit for a long period of time. I got a chair that'll tilt back now so I can take weight shifts and stuff, but I can't really travel long distances and set up real long because I don't want my sores to come back, because right now they're getting almost where they're pretty well healed, and I want to keep it that way. So, but I would. Anybody ever ask me? I mean, my other former teachers that I was with, I come in and talk to their classes sometimes about spinal cord injuries when he has that session and stuff, and I'll do little things like that. But I guess I couldn't tell a real story if I wanted to. It's just the fact of setting up long enough and traveling to do it. Because it's hard. You got to have somebody with you, a personal care attendant, and they got to be able to move you around. It's hard.
Scott, I would think you could do Zoom.
Yeah, I have done some stuff on Facebook over the phone and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, you're really an inspiration. You truly, truly are.
Well, thank you. Never think of myself as that. I lived through it. And I don't beat around the bush. I tell people what I think, and if you don't like it, I really don't care.
I like that.
Yeah. I mean, there's parts in the book I've had some people say, because my life I had all kinds of fears, and being with a woman and sex and stuff was a fear, and I put it in there, and some people didn't like that, and I was like, until you lived as a quadriplegic and know the things that scared you, I says, and people want to know. My mom hated it, but all the people around me says, like, if you didn't put that in there, people would be wondering. And then we used to go talk to schools, with all the kids in there, that's all they cared about. Like, can you be with a woman and all that?
Yeah.
So I laid her all out in it. It's on there, and people know about quads now.
Well, I thank you for writing this book.
Get a chance to read it, and you'll see who I am.
Why do they call you Beef?
Well, when we were young, my neighbor, my brother, my dad always called us beef, bacon, and cheese, and mine stood for beef. I don't know, I just kept it, and all my friends called me Beef, my coaches, everything, and still today, a lot of them call me that, and they probably don't even know my first name. So.
All right. You are Scott Beef Bidwell,
Uh-huh.
author of Full Throttle. Thanks, Beef.
Hey, no problem.
The Spider on the Ceiling is the name of our next book, written by Michael Joseph Grasso. Welcome, Michael. To read your detailed synopsis about this forensic psychologist with a passion for defending sexually abused women and about a specific case that captivates her, One might think you're a psychologist or a psychiatrist or in that field.
I am. I am not. I'm a. I'm a storyteller. I've been interested in narrative since I was a kid for some reason. But I grew up and then decided I wanted to be a fine art major. And I was for a while, but then I discovered that I really couldn't draw. And so one thing led to another, and I ended up in broadcasting and advertising, where I created a lot. I directed in New York and Los Angeles, and ended up doing writing and producing and directing a feature film. And Spider on the Ceiling is my first novel.
Wow, that's some background. Where did the story come from?
It really started with, I always had a fascination. I don't think fascination's the right word, but there was a girl, a young teen named Elizabeth Smart, who was picked up off the street in Utah.
I remember.
Remember?
Yes.
And she went through like 8 or 9 months of daily serial rape, and somehow. The police discovered her wandering on the street one day, but somehow she managed to come out of that. So the genesis of this story for me was, how do women who have gone through these incredibly abusive situations survive? And what do they do in the moments when it's actually happening to them? How do they deal with it? How do they cope with it? Where do they focus their attention? So the Spider on the Ceiling, which is the first case in Anna's book, is about a girl who was serially raped, and she would focus her attention while that was going on. She would focus on a spider on the ceiling in the barn where the rapes were occurring. She would draw all her attention to that, and to the point that she knew exactly what that spider did, how it hunted, where it put its prey, and those kind of details. So it's Anna's task. Anna Newsom's task. She's the main character in the book, the protagonist. It's her task to defend or to come up with evidence supporting the victim's allegations of rape when they've gone on to murder their abusers. So let's say a woman claims she's been raped, serially raped, whatever, and she's killed her abuser, but there's no physical evidence of such. Too much time has passed, so there's no biologics left. There's no way a physical examination would work. So now Anna is tasked with finding a way to prove it. Now, Anna herself was raped when she was 13, I believe, and that's what set this whole thing in motion. That's what it drove her to become a forensic psychiatrist. It's what drove her into this career. And I think all women can, in one way or another, relate to that, whether they're being abused or not. I mean, if a woman's in a relationship and she doesn't like the guy, but she's got to,
she's got to carry on
along,
for whatever reason.
She's got to carry on.
Yeah.
How does she carry on? Right.
We are a resilient bunch.
Yes.
I love that idea that she focuses on the spider on the ceiling, and then she's able to shut out all of the abuse.
All of the abuse, right. So, yes. So I took it a step further and I said, well, what if the woman is undergoing such trauma that she's actually able to affect her physical surroundings? And that's what happens in the main case study in the book with Elizabeth Barrett, this young girl who killed a dairy farmer. In Elizabeth Barrett's room, there's actually physical things that are taking place as she projects this torment that she's going through.
Oh. In your synopsis, it says, in the end, the case will finally demonstrate to Anna's outspoken skeptics that the human mind, when experiencing extreme physical and emotional agony, can transcend the laws of nature.
Correct.
I find that very telling.
Yeah. And I call it, I named it causal teletransmutations, or CTTs. Well, Anna came up with that term, and that's what she calls it. So it's no different than people who have been able in the past to affect their surroundings. You know, they can send a pencil flying off a table or bend a spoon or whatever it happens to be. But under severe trauma, isn't it possible that that could happen? So that's one of the premises here.
You know, having done a screenplay, having done a movie, is that what you see happening for this story?
Well, I think it's possible that it could become I think it would make a good film. I think it would make a good television series because we could go through multiple cases. I mean, it's, you know, I think it's got a lot of legs. But in addition to that, I like writing in a way that is highly visual. In other words, for me, I mean, it's a solid novel, but it also reads kind of like a screenplay in a way that the viewer or the reader can actually see themselves in the situation, can actually see what's transpiring as the story goes on. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're actually there. So I take a slightly different tack, I think, than most writers do,
Right.
because I came from a highly visual background.
Right. What do you see happening next?
Well, I published it the first time on Kindle by myself, and I didn't really know what I was doing, and I don't understand how to promote this kind of work, books in this way. So I decided to go with Fulton Books the second time around. They helped me clean it up a little bit, and so it's like the second edition that's out now on Amazon.
Okay.
No, and I would just like readership. I would like more reviews. I'd like people to see it. I think it has great value. I think it's entertaining. It moves along, but I do think women would really appreciate it. I mean, it's really for a female audience, I think.
Yeah. Well, I mean, are you out talking about it?
I directed television commercials for 35 years, and the commercial business is very different than the long form literary business.
Yeah.
It's like separate worlds. And getting a lit agent now is very difficult.
Yeah.
I'm just getting anything in front of them is very difficult. So, I'm just hoping for exposure, that somebody sees it. I'm going to be at the Frankfurt Book Fair in October. So we're kind of excited about that.
But nothing locally, like, I mean, you'd be great in a library talking about the writing process, talking about the process of becoming an author, of what you went through to get this book out there, how you came up with the story. I mean, you'd be very interesting.
Yeah, I did that. There is a small book club here in St. George where we live, and I did that. And it was great. It was fun. It was a fun thing to do, and the ladies were very interested. In fact, I had a showing of my film, The Umbrella Man, at the Munson Museum there, the art museum. We had a showing, and that went really well. So yes, I mean, I could get a write-up, definitely.
Okay.
Now you asked me if I was a psychiatrist. It would be cheaper if I could do self-analysis.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding. No, and if I could just say a couple words about The Umbrella Man, it was we're looking again to get it. I recut it. I did a director's cut. We're looking again to get it on streaming platforms. But it's also a very interesting story. It takes place in the early 90s. It's about a couple that lose their young son in a deer hunting accident. The wife goes to church support groups, right, to get through it. But the husband goes deep into a Kennedy assassination conspiracy theories.
Oh, geez.
And he gets lost in the Kennedy assassination and ends up finding evidence that he believes will prove that there was more than a single shooter. So I use the Kennedy assassination to tell this story about love and loss and redemption. And
All right. Looking forward to that. Michael Joseph Grasso, author of The Spider on the Ceiling. Thanks so much.
of course, Alice, thank you.
Carlos A. Sanchez is a very happily retired dentist, which is reflected in the second story you will find in his book entitled A Collection of 4 Unusual Stories. Did you manage to find time to write while you were a dentist?
I wrote the first story, Deadly Descent, yes, back in about between 99 and 2000. And I finished it, and it sat there. And, you get caught up with practice, and I was very active in organized dentistry, et cetera, et cetera. So it just sat there as an achievement, but one that did not go any further. once I was nearing retirement, I started to get the writing bug back in me,
Yeah.
and I realized this story, number one, let's get a rewrite of that story and let's add some things and let's make it better, which I did. And then after that, I'd actually had David and Jean is the dental story. And it's not a boring story of dentists, by the way. It's actually the guy happens to be a dentist and he stumbles into something he's never seen in his life and does not appear in any dental literature. And he is absolutely flummoxed of how to treat it. And it's a condition that cannot be ignored because this is a 3 to 4 year old little boy who will eventually perish if it isn't handled.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's that's what I'm saying. That the dentistry is a part of it, but it's about a lot more. So anyway, that came, David and Jean came from a dream I had one night, actually.
Why did you decide to publish these 4 stories as a collection?
Well, they got, for no particular reason, unless it was some subliminal thing, they got a little shorter. The first one is kind of a novelette, and then the others became more of the typical short story format. So I realized publishing 4 different stories would be first a crazy expense, and then little comic books, So I thought to put them into a paperback. Then I thought of the name. Okay, they're unusual stories to boot, so a collection of 4 unusual stories.
Do they have something unusual in common?
3 of them in particular do, because it challenges your beliefs about the physical universe, about things that supposedly don't exist.
Okay.
That many people say don't exist. It challenges that. It's only one of the 4 stories does not involve that. The other 3 do. So that is definitely a common thread. They're about, if I lump them together, you want me to, I could tell you they're about friendship. They're about mountain biking adventure.
Okay.
They're romance, murder, intrigue, corruption, children's dentistry, of course, unheard of dental conditions. They're about courage, clearly, pretty much throughout the book. Love of family, accountability, meeting out accountability in particular. Older couples protecting one another, standing together and being strong. Irresponsible people, the actions they take and the consequences of those actions. Baseball, and say local history. That pretty much is a list of the things that these stories are about.
Okay.
Oh, also small towns too, by the way. Small towns, by and large, is a common thread.
So why don't you tell me a little about each story?
Yeah, so this is chronological order. Deadly Descent is about Mark and Jeff. They're 2 lifelong friends that live in Tampa, and they love to go on mountain biking trips. And in this particular case, at a bike shop, they'd heard about this trail called Bluff Ridge Trail. And it's not something that you can find like in the trail books or the trail guides. It's a relatively unknown trail. And by the way, I'm a mountain biker, so those do exist.
Yeah.
Where you need to, get it from the locals. So they're doing this trip, and they decide to end this trip of that area. Well, let's go to this town in Virginia, town called Diller, Virginia. And that's where Bluff Ridge Trail is located. So they were told, right? And they were given this crude little directions list, but they can't find it. So finally, when they do find it, they start running into some bizarre things that challenge their beliefs of the physical universe, things that one was always told do not exist. And Mark and Jeff starts to find out that they very much do exist. And pretty soon they begin to realize why they are seeing those things. And in the meantime, they also find something that has to do with what they're seeing. And that leads them to find out about a local murder that happened between drug dealers.
Ooh.
So it gets more and more involved, and they meet also a couple of people that are looking for a missing person, and all these things are connected.
Okay.
So
that's exciting.
The ending is really exciting. I will not give that away.
No, don't give that away. Let's move on.
Okay, David and Jean. This is about a guy named Brent, and Brent is a dentist, and he's been in practice long enough that he upgraded some equipment from the practice he bought, which, they had older equipment. It's still decent equipment, but it's a shame to toss it. So he finds out that there's a local free clinic near where he practices in the town of Centerville, Ohio. And he says, you know what I'm going to donate this stuff. That clinic, I went over there. They don't have dental stuff. I think it'd be great. Maybe I'll even go once a month and volunteer. And they have volunteer dentists, but they did not have the equipment. So he goes, and when he goes, there's a guy named George who's a local handyman. George helps him to install the stuff. And then he, out of gratitude, George wouldn't accept money. So he says, George, let me buy you breakfast. He takes him to the Rainbow Inn Diner, local diner in Centerville. And they're having breakfast. As they're finishing, George says, you know, Doc, I know it's Saturday. I know you're busy, but really, I have this big favor to ask of you. And he says, my son, David, he's got this weird dental condition, and no dentist has ever looked at it because my wife has been terrified to take him. And then George says, you know, Brent says to George, look, George, with all due respect, people say that all the time to me, but, you know, it's usually not a big deal. You can bring him by my office. I tell you what, I'll check him for free. But the man says, Doc, I am begging you, please. So he goes over there. He looks in the boy's mouth, and he finds out that this boy has two complete sets of teeth, one growing inside the other.
Oh, my
That
God.
that does not exist. So that is, you know, you're not going to find it in the pathology books. There's no lecture. So he begins to dig into that and find out why. At the same time, promising the family that the case will not be an evening news report, or, you know, the kid won't be put up like some sideshow.
Okay.
Which is what kept him from doing it. So anyway, he starts, the minute he walks into that house, some weird stuff starts to happen to him.
Okay.
And I'll leave it at that.
Okay.
Next, Leap and Tree. This is about Marjorie and Prescott. They're an older couple. They're retired in Kentland, Indiana. And as I said, they're retired, enjoying their life. One night, they go to sleep, and Marjorie just kind of can't get to sleep. So she's tossing and turning, and she hears a boom in the hallway, a thump. And she's thinking, my God, that sounds like the little ladder that comes out of the attic hatch. And
Yeah.
she gets a flashlight. She's still a little woozy, doesn't want to wake her husband, who's snoring away. You know, we guys do snore.
Yeah.
And she walks out into the hallway, and she sees a shadowy figure, which freaks her the hell out. When she shines the light on it, hoping and praying, please disappear when I shine the light on you. It's not an apparition. It's not a ghost. It's a young man. And he scrambles up that ladder to get someone else. At that moment, Marjorie has a heart attack and collapses and is debilitated. Those two people split. Do you know what Froggers are? These two are Froggers.
Okay. No.
Froggers, for those who don't know, with a PH, not with an F, are people who will sneak into your home, usually, especially if you have a basement or attic, and they will hang out there as a challenge. And sometimes they will mess with you. They'll move things in your living room when you're not home. They'll eat your food. They'll do weird stuff. It's evil. Okay, but they exist. There is frogging, and these two are called Leap and Tree because it's a takeoff on leapfrog and tree frog. That's their online name on a dark web forum that froggers use.
Okay.
So this woman is left again, you know, semi-paralyzed. They don't know if she's ever going to be able to walk again because of the damage that the heart attack caused her heart muscle. And the husband says, you know what? After frustration with the local police, nobody sees anything, no camera footage. By God, I'm going to start taking matters into my own hands. And he does. And that's what this story is about.
All right. And finally,
the Talmo 9. Talmo is a real town. It's the only one that isn't a fictitious town. This is about a minor league baseball team called the Leesburg Snappers. Leesburg's a town in North Florida. And they go off in the Georgia area to Rome, Georgia, right, to play the Rome Emperors. That's another minor league baseball team. The Leesburg Snappers are a fictitious team for those of you who are baseball fans that know that.
Okay.
But anyway, yeah, so don't yell at me. They're a fictitious team. So they, on the way up, they have this rickety old beat up bus, which is not uncommon for minor league. They don't get a lot of money. The bus starts overheating well away from the game, you know, like an hour or so away from game time. They're worried about if they don't show up on time, you forfeit the game. And they're forced to pull into the town of Talmo and get repairs. And it turns out that it's a water pump. It's got to be replaced. So in the meantime, there's no part there. The manager and the trainer have to drive off in haste to Atlanta to get the part, you know, and they pay in advance for it, whatever. The boys go to they're just walking around after they have lunch in the diner. They have nothing to do. They see this museum, which is a railway depot, and behind it is an old abandoned baseball field. It hasn't been used in decades. So they start looking at this field, and then they realize, hey, you know, tick, 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 the clock is going. If we don't practice, we're not going to be able to get into the game in time to warm up and get ready for the game. And when they start setting up and doing batting practice and whatnot, a local ragtag team shows up of local players, you know, from there, older guys, kind of farmhand type looking. And they walk up and these guys are, oh my God, we're on the field of the local people. We're in trouble. And they walk over, they apologize, and then the captain of that team says, "How about y'all play us a little game instead of you practicing?" So they agree to the game, and away we go. And it gets
Oh,
real interest, and it gets real interesting. I promise you, real interesting.
I believe you, Carlos. Do you go out and talk about your books?
Yes, I do.
When I first did the package, they give you extra books. I gave some of them away, and in different places. Some people I know, some that I don't. The reviews I've gotten has been, wow, great book. We love it. It's a page turner. It's a quick read actually, because the stories keep you riveted. So you want to find out what's next. What's next? What do they see next? What happens next?
Right.
So that's been my experience.
All right. You got to keep writing, Carlos?
I would like to, but to be honest, writing is not my, it's not my occupation. I mean, I'm retired, but at the same time, I want to get this book launched. And so I'm looking forward to seeing the reaction from this book before I launch into another. Now, if you want to know, do I have another book in my head? Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I believe you.
I know the stories. I know the titles. I know the whole damn thing.
All right. Carlos A. Sanchez, a collection of 4 unusual stories. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Alice.
A difficult time and a dream inspired Danny Hill to start writing about 2 years ago, and now he's published Purgatory Mall. So tell me about this dream.
There's only a very small portion of it that the actual dream. Everything else I built around the dream, but Purgatory Mall in itself is a lot of me. The character Brian is pretty much me. A lot of my thoughts and my feelings and my life experiences and finding God and everything.
So Brian is an inmate in a county jail. He's awaiting trial.
Okay, so he was kind of a man that had a nightlife, and I touch on that a little bit. He ended up talking to this girl and didn't know that she was underage. Now he's in jail, and he feels like he doesn't know who he is, and he's kind of just lost in himself and wants to make his life better and make better decisions, but doesn't know how to go about that. And then it just goes into this kind of a dream he's having where he gets put into this world, a purgatory, and now he's dealing with not knowing what's going on. There's a lot of wild stuff happening, and he's got to try to figure out what's going on and how to get out of this world. And in doing so, he meets biblical people that help him throughout the way, and a mystery girl that pops up throughout the story and also helps him ultimately finding God and his purpose in life, why he is here, and how he can change into a better person, I guess.
Okay, so why do you call it a mall, like Purgatory Mall?
Okay, so Purgatory is actually an interesting thing for the book because it's a reference to like a state,
right,
where people are sent after they die, where they kind of purge some minor sins. And the mall part, I just added that because I felt like it was a nice touch. It gives it kind of a vivid imagination to you. Like everybody knows what a mall looks like. And even though it's not technically the same in the story, it kind of gives you this idea of this is a big place and many people may exist here as well.
Yeah, like there's many compartments, and in each compartment is a different person, is an obstacle. That's what I'm getting from it. And
yes,
you say that he meets various people. Like, give me an example. Who does he meet from the Bible?
Well, John, Mark, Matthew, and Luke are in it. James also.
And a mystery woman keeps popping up. Who is she?
Well, it's hard for me to reveal that because that's a surprise for the reader in the end.
Okay.
So he kind of there's these shops in the book, and they're obscured, and he doesn't know what these shops are within this mall. And when he enters it, it sucks him into this world, and that's where he'll meet either one or two biblical figures, and they pretty much, at the time when you're reading, they seem like they're talking nonsense. They throw out a lot of numbers, and Brian's confused by the whole situation. Towards the end, he starts to figure out that these numbers that they've been throwing out at him all have meaning and all refer to verses in the Bible that are in their specific books.
I see. All right.
And all of it comes down and pretty much opens his eyes to his own purpose and meaning in life.
Is this kind of a mirror of your own spiritual journey?
It is.
Very interesting. How'd you feel when you purged all of these thoughts and all of these characters and made it into a book? How did that feel?
It felt really free. It freed my mind, and it freed me a little bit more. And it really made me feel like I can do anything that I want to do, and nothing should be able to hold me back from that.
And it helped you through your difficulties that preceded writing the book.
Yes.
That's awesome. You going to keep writing?
Yes, I actually have 2 more books finished, just not published yet, and I'm on another book as well. And all of them deal within the same world with Purgatory Mall. It's all going to be a very long series that ultimately comes down to a conclusion.
Okay.
But all of these books are going to be a little different than all the rest of them. They're all a little different, but they all add up to the same thing. It's kind of hard to explain, but it's kind of like the Marvel Cinematic Universe, there's all these different aspects and they're all pulled into one universe together.
Interesting.
One thing I do want to add is with Purgatory Mall, you don't have to be a spiritual person or a believer in God to enjoy the book, because the adventure on its own is just an enjoyment.
Well, it sounds it. Danny Hill, author of Purgatory Mall, thank you so much.
Thank you.
You know, when things go wrong in life, that's when so many people start to write. And that was the case with Rollie Folson, who was inspired to write Mountain Bones. So maybe the one good thing that came out of what?
I had a bad breakup, and I decided that just to occupy my mind, I would decide to write. And I had always wanted to write a book. I didn't know what the book was going to be about. There's a little bit of personal stuff in there that's kind of tied to me, but for the most part, it was just a story. And then along the way, I kind of put it together.
And that personal stuff involves your love of skiing near Denver and the big ski industry taking over the little guy.
Yeah. A friend of mine that I used to go up and ski with in Jackson, he was one of my old roommates. His parents were born and raised in Jackson, and I would go up and ski with him. And it was always somewhat reasonable during the weekdays. We would ski just to stay out of crowds. But his parents, him included, like his parents were kind of born and raised there, either had their place, and his dad's a cardiologist, of course, so they can afford to live there.
Yeah.
But this kid that was born and raised in Jackson, Wyoming, can't afford to live there growing up, so they had to move over to Idaho. And that was a little bit of the inspiration, was how a lot of these ski resort areas for the people that were born there and grew up there and went to school there can't afford to live there because they're getting essentially pushed out by millionaires, billionaires.
Right.
I kind of wanted to center it around somewhat of a blue collar guy that just kind of worked at a ski resort just to be able to ski for free because it was too expensive. And then also I wanted to kind of tell a story about somebody that was born there, moved away, found other work, and then moved back because they missed it and their family was there. But it ended up just being a totally different town because corporate ski in America had kind of taken over.
Okay.
And then from there, of course, I built up the love interest, which was another girl that he had never really hung out with or knew very well, but just was from the same town. And she was kind of the money. She came from money, and her parents and family had owned the land that had sold it to the ski resorts.
Okay.
And then he was more of a blue collar. His dad worked for the ski resort, maintained it, did the supervision, did the maintenance and all the lifts and all that. And then he kind of helped out and did some welding on the side whenever he could. And I ended up tying those two together eventually. Nothing serious, nothing sexual. It's more of a, it's appropriate for all ages. There might be a few F words, but for the most part, I kept it really, really PG.
Okay.
Um, and then as far as the rest of the story goes, I kind of just rolled with it, put these two together. I created the villain, which was the manager slash whatever you want to call it. I guess it'd be the manager of the mountain that works for the ski company. Him being the villain, the ski company being the villain, and then from there I built up Rolf's dad, Marta's dad, and their families, and I had the judge, which was Marta's dad, the I guess the people that own the land, and then I had to create something a little bit more substantial as to why they couldn't and didn't want to sell part of the mountain for them to expand. And that was where I got the Mountain Bones title. Was there was some secrets.
Any you can share?
There's one pivotal secret that's tied to Marta's family and the owners of the land and the mountain originally anyway. So there's like a front side of the mountain and a back side of the mountain. The front side of the mountain they've already sold.
Okay.
The ski resort owns that. The back side of the mountain they own. And if somebody was to take something from the title, there might be some bones on the mountain. And so that brings Marta's mom into the equation.
Okay.
Because she's still living, of course, but like it was something that was done years before the mountain and the slope and the ski slope was there, basically to hide someone that had been taken care of.
Ooh.
And so what tied those two together and what tied Rolf and Marta together were Marta's dad and Rolf's dad that used to be really good friends back in the day and had disposed of someone on top of the mountain that had done something wrong.
Okay.
And throughout the rest of the book, those two families who really, I guess Marta and Rolf just kind of got together and started hanging out without knowing anything about the past and what had been done up there.
Yeah.
And so what the more the story goes along, they get brought into it because they don't really have much of a choice because these two older fellas are too old to do anything about it, to like relocate some evidence.
Oh.
And as it progresses, they try to find a timeline to figure out when they can do it. And then Christian, who is the villain I told you about, he somehow starts getting suspicious about absolutely everything. And he ends up not doing a fantastic job with managing the mountain. So they bring in a consultant that's another girl. She gets thrown into the mix a little bit later as well. To be honest, like it's just something that I started writing and then I just started putting it together. And I would work on one chapter with one character, then I would work on another one and I would try to tie it together. Is it perfect? Absolutely not. But it's my first book, so
Right.
I'm sure I can get better.
Well, I don't know. It sounds like you got a pretty good plot going here.
Yeah. So I did a little self-promotion and I got it put into a bookstore in Fort Collins. I'm still planning on hitting up the ones like in Vail, Aspen, places like that, which is basically kind of where all this is happening anyway, because
Yeah.
used to you could go ski and you might wait 10 or 15 minutes in a line to get back on the lift, and this was back whenever 10 years ago. I used to do it.
Right.
You could wait 10 or 15 minutes and you could go back up to the mountain and ski more.
Right.
These days, I don't know how much you keep up with skiing, but it is an hour and a half to 2 hours wait per ride on the lift.
That's insane.
And it is, if you don't have a pass to ski, it is $200 to $250 to $300 a day just to go skiing.
Wow. That's nuts.
Yeah, it is. So it's kind of like taking the whole fun out of it. I used to do it a lot.
Right.
And I'm not going to go wait and ski 4 runs for $300. So
yeah,
I've kind of dropped off.
But you could read a book. You could start a book and finish it in a day if you read it while you were waiting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was kind of it definitely is geared towards like this is actually happening. I don't know if you I think it was Vail Resort, which was the mother, like basically the mothership of a lot of the ski corporations in the country.
Yes.
They had a massive strike this year because they basically make tens of hundreds of millions of dollars off of people, and they pay their employees $17 to $20 an hour, and they can't even afford to live
Right.
where they're working at. Like if you look at Aspen, Colorado, of course everybody knows Aspen's rich country.
Right.
Every worker that works and every person that works as the labor force in Aspen has to live an hour or so away and then share housing to go to work.
Right. And you made this all a part of your story.
I do. You are started to see a lot of the like really modern construction showing up,
Yeah.
newer coffee shops that don't really fit what that town used to be.
Right.
I kind of bring a lot of that all into the book.
So, this book is also raising awareness.
I will probably have to write a sequel to this one at some point. There's been quite a few people that have said I need another book because it's kind of left with a cliffhanger. And to expand maybe my writing prowess into, a little bit more specific as far as the ski corporations, the strike, stuff like that. But
Yeah.
I haven't really decided yet.
Did this help you deal with the emotional, strain of going through your breakup? Did writing help you?
It did, and it was more of just like if something didn't go right in my life, of course I was probably just mutually to blame like anyone else is, but it was more of like more of like getting back on the horse of like I need to be a productive person. I don't drink, I don't do drugs, I don't let myself fall into things of that sort. I drink socially, but I don't let myself fall apart when it comes to that. But I'm just the type of person that has to keep my mind occupied because if not, then I'll overthink everything in life. So this was most definitely helpful in just keeping the mind busy. And I had some friends along the way that I would send it to kind of read through, and they were pushing me to finish it. So I don't deserve all the credit, but yeah, it definitely did help. And now I'm a published author, so
So there you go. Feels good.
that's nice to see. It's nice to say or hear anyway, but I don't really talk a lot about it, to be honest. I might should, but that's how it goes.
All right. Rollie Folson, author of Mountain Bones. Thanks so much.
Absolutely. I appreciate your time.
Bernard W. Gatti started writing in 2013, and now he's published There's No Cable in Waldo, the WKRP Murders, bonus short story, The True Capture of Mussolini. All right, Bernard, how you doing? Now, you say you never really wrote anything outside of technical data for your job, so what got you going on this?
Well, one of my nephews opened up a small delicatessen in Waldo, Maine. Okay, and Waldo, Maine had very little population, so the deli didn't work out too good. But his brother then, an older brother, was writing a short story about just the trials and tribulations of the people in Waldo, Maine. And he's the one that came up with There Is No Cable in Waldo.
What does that mean?
No cable TV. Anyway, so he's the one that started that. And I said to myself, why is there no cable in Waldo? I had word recognition software because my wife always thought I'm a pretty good cook, so she thought I should start writing a menu, a cookbook. But trying to enter the information in the cookbook was a pain in the ass with, a 1/4 ounce of this, and it wasn't that simple, typing.
Yeah.
So I decided I would get. She got me a word recognition software, or voice recognition software.
Okay.
So while learning it, which took a day or two, to use, I started writing this book. And once I got the first paragraph down, it just streamed out on me. I was writing a chapter a night. It went really fast. And you know why there was no cable in Waldo?
Why was there no cable in Waldo?
Because someone was killing off the cable salesman.
Why would they do that?
Well, it was just this one guy that became a serial killer. He was killing everything. He didn't get a job as a salesman, so he decided to kill off the other guys that did get their jobs.
Oh, jeez. Well, according to your synopsis, 3 dead bodies are found.
Right. Yeah, but they had been dead for 30 years.
Oh, geez. And then the next thing we know, we have an international mystery on our hands.
Yes, because it turned out the guy was like one of the richest men in the world.
Okay.
And he lived in a mansion, a big palatial estate on top of a mountain between Italy and Austria.
Okay.
And the only way you could get in and out was on a tram type thing. Actually, what the story's about is the Maine policemen.
Okay, what about them?
And their unusual crime consultant. It all starts with them finding a body. The first part of the book is a guy comes yelling, he found a body. They were out hunting and they found a body. He's digging a pit to put meat in for a bear, for a bear trap. And he finds this body. And that's how it starts. And then the police come and the forensics people come. And during the course of a couple of days, they find 2 more bodies in different locations. And then it goes on from there.
So how do we go international? What's with the mansion in Austria? Where does that come from?
To go international is because they track him down and they find out where he's living in northern Italy. So the whole crew goes to northern Italy. Well, they know who he is, but they turned out that he's untouchable because where his family plane had crashed on the top of the Alps in an area that didn't belong to Austria or Italy. It was because when they were creating boundaries for countries, it was just too high up in the Alps for them to have to go up there and start doing surveys. So he's in an area that's not a country that they can't extradite him. It's his country. It gets complicated.
And then we tie in the Holocaust, the Vietnam War, the mafia, international terrorism.
That's because his father and his father's partner were selling, distributing caviar, and they made a deal with the largest caviar consolidator in the world, and he was a Jewish guy. This is World War II now, okay? And he was concerned that his family could be picked up and executed. So he makes a deal with these 2 Americans, which were Ukrainian or something else, I forget, Lithuanian or something. That if ever something happened to him, they would make sure that his family was taken care of and brought to America. And then they agreed that he would turn over all of his holdings to them for that purpose. And then a couple of days later, they get turned in because the 2 guys turned them in. So that's your Holocaust is right there. And then the guy became a Vietnam hero. He was in a Vietnam. Actually, he was part of what they call the CIA has Dirty Tricks group, and he was in the Dirty Tricks group at CIA. And they'd constantly go over from Cambodia over into Vietnam and kill somebody, a general or something. And he got arrested, and they went to a special camp in Hanoi, and they escaped from that. And they killed all the soldiers. But our guy was nuts because he was killing everybody. He just wanted to kill. And they sent him, and the other 2 that didn't want to kill, they were charged with dereliction of duty because they were there to kill people. And so they complained about their guy, the other guy, which is our killer. And they sent him to a Navy hospital in Castle Point, New York. And it's now actually my VA hospital, but it was a Navy hospital then. And his family, he was raised, the family had the money because they had all the caviar business. They had a big mansion in Harrison, New York. So he went to live with them. And then he had this one nurse that was taking care of him in the hospital. He ended up marrying her. And then he started drinking and he went nuts. He was not doing well. So he was applying for a job up in what at the time was Fisher Body in Tarrytown, New York, which was a Chevrolet plant. But when he got there, he was drunk, and the guy that was supposed to interview him threw him out of the office. So he waited for the guy to come out, and he killed him. He killed everybody that was bad to him. And that's the other part of it. The Maine state police or BCI have been tracking this guy, or they don't know him. They're tracking because of the dead bodies, and it all comes up and exposed. It's all kinds of little different things in it. When I wrote it, my sister was in the kitchen. She's older than me, reading the manuscript. Okay, and she said, "This is like a good movie." Anyway, we found out my son used to work in Hollywood, and one of his friends was friends with Billy Bob Thornton, the actor and producer. And the friend read the manuscript and said, "This is pretty good. You should get a screenplay and we'll give it to Billy Bob Thornton because he wants these things." But you guys wanted too much money to write the screenplay. So I said, "I'll have to have somebody else do it." Because I don't know, you ever noticed the movies that are being made? They're horrible.
What's the deal with the bonus short entitled The True Capture of Mussolini?
Now, the Mussolini thing was actually told to me when I was a kid by one of the partisans that did it, that captured him. So that was the true story, what I wrote in that Mussolini thing. That was just a bonus thing.
All right, Bernard W. Gatti. There is no cable in Waldo, the WKRP murders. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
We hope you enjoyed this edition of the ReaderHouse Author Roundtable, where authors from all walks of life come together to discuss the trials, tribulations, and triumphs of publishing their books. I'm Alice Stockton Rossini. We hope to see you back here every Saturday night at 8 o'clock, or listen to our podcast anytime on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, and PodServe, just to name a few. The Author Roundtable is sponsored by ReaderHouse Online Bookstore, where independent new authors come first.